Hey guys, and welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today we are going to talk about overshot weaving. So let's get started. So basically what overshot is, at its base, is just a plain weave or tabby piece of cloth with supplementary wefts that create a pattern. So this will be clearer once we get started, but I highly recommend, just like with the twill, that you use contrasting colors. I'm going to be using two Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick yarns here. One is just the off-white, and this one is like, I want to say slate blue, but it's the navy one. So you can see that these are really going to contrast with each other. I tried a overshot pattern with an off-white and a light blue, and it didn't come through as much, so that's where I'm going to tell you to go contrasting, at least for your first time, because you'll really see the pattern come through and it's really satisfying. The other thing I want to mention is that I am using a warp string color that's similar to the background color that I am using for this pattern. So I went with off-white and off-white. So I'm just going to get some lengths of each of these yarns. And I'll just go to say, I will put a link in the description below for where you can download this pattern. This is just one I drafted up for you, and there'll be a link down there so that you can download it as well. The first thing that I'm going to do is just a 3 or 4 rows of plain weave with my background color. For me, that's the off-white here. On my loom, I have 33 warp strings warped onto the loom. That is what this pattern is drafted for, but if you wanted to make it wider, you would just have a few extra boxes here of background, but the pattern will remain the same. One thing to note is this is much like the twill patterns where you don't want to beat down too hard. Once we start putting in the pattern color, we're going to have to kind of beat firmer in the center and then a little bit looser on the ends so that everything stays nice and straight. So I also have my pattern color here, and I have my second tapestry needle so that I don't have to keep switching them out. And like I said, reading this pattern is exactly the same as reading a twill pattern. So the dark blocks represent warp strings that we are going over with our color that we're using for the pattern. And the white string or white blocks represent where we're going under. So you can see on the edges that I'm keeping my entire pattern out into the center of my weaving. Now, typically with overshot, this would be a repeating pattern and you would go edge to edge with both your pattern color and your background color. But I wanted to do something where there was kind of more of a feature, so we're going to keep it all inside. So that means that our blue here isn't actually going to be going to the ends of our weaving, and I'll show you what I mean. So to get started, I always like to have a second piece of paper so that you can really work one row at a time without seeing everything and maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So you can see that our first row is just a single over one warp string right in the center of our weaving. So the first thing you need to do is figure out where that center string is. So I'm just going to count. So this is my center string. So I'm simply going to go over that warp string with the blue. Leave yourself a tail that you can tuck in later. And that is our first row. So after we do, again, that first row of the actual pattern, we're going to go back with our background color and just do a row of plain weave. Again, you can see I'm not beating down very firmly. I want to leave this a little bit looser. All right, so that was our first row. So now we can scooch this paper up to our next row. And for this one, I'm not going to count all the way from the edges. I'm actually going to more so work from the previous row. So you can see I need to have my color go over the 3 middle strings. So over top that 1, 1, 2, 3. And then we have these ones here. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and then skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're here with this 1. So I'm gonna bring my needle underneath, go over that 1 warp string, under 4, over 3, under 4, and over 1. Keeping your needle behind the rest of those warp strings and pulling through. Again, not too tight, you don't want to be doing this. And that is row 2. So now we're ready to go back in with the off-white and do a row of plain weave. Now we can scooch up to row 3, and it gets even easier to figure out where we are. So I know that that string, we need to go over the same one plus another one. We go under 2, then we're going over 5, under 2, over 2. And again, row of plain weave. What's nice about Overshot is because we're always doing this row of plain weave between the pattern sections, is it means that you can go over a ton of warp strings at a time without compromising the structure of your piece. So that's where you can do larger patterns, skip over more warp strings, and it's not going to compromise the piece or make it go all wonky on you because we have the plain weave structure underneath. Now we're ready to scooch up to the next row, back to our blue, and now we're going, starting on that same warp string that we've been going over, but we're going over 3, under 2, over 3, under 2, over 3. And back with our plain weave. So I'm going to keep going till the end, and then we will see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, we're just gonna pause here. You can see that I actually messed up and I was doing my pattern with my background color. So I'm simply just going to unweave and do it correctly. Okay, once again, I noticed that this row was lining up with my previous one instead of being the opposite for the plain weave, and I noticed I skipped over 2 here, so I'm just backing up and redoing it. You guys know what I always say, there's no shame in the unweaving game. Definitely take the time to get it right so that you're super happy with your piece when you're done. So you can see me here sort of playing with this. I can tell that I was beading a little bit looser at the beginning than here at the end, so I just want to try to even that out a little bit so that our pattern does look symmetrical. So that was the last row of my pattern. So now I'm just going to do, just like we did at the beginning, just do a few rows of plain weave. And that is our full pattern finished. So now I'm just gonna flip this over and I'm gonna tuck in all the ends. You can see how kind of crazy it looks, like there's lots of going over a lot of warp strings here, but again, because we have that plain weave intact, this isn't gonna compromise the structure of your weaving. All right, so here is our finished design, and you can see how it matches with this. We're a little bit more squished this way, and that's pretty normal because these blocks aren't necessarily true to size depending on what thickness of yarn you're using. This is a 4 ends per inch loom, just so you're aware, we sell this in the shop. But you could use a 5 ends per inch as well. It would be a little bit tighter, so if you want it to be a little less loose, I would do that, or you can opt for a thicker yarn. So all in all, Overshot is just such a cool way to add actual pictures to your weaving, and I think this would just be so pretty with a fringe that maybe has like mixed white and blues and stuff like that, and is like so cute, kind of a snowflake pattern meets Christmas sweater, if you will. So I just love that for fall and for winter. I mean, fall here anyway, because we get snow in the fall, but this would be a great product for you to offer in your shop. You are totally free to use this pattern as you wish. I just always ask that you tag me in your posts when you do use our patterns and tutorials, and that really helps others see our videos as well. Alright you guys, so that is an introduction to overshot weaving. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Such a fun technique to add pictures and patterns on a larger scale into your weavings. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. And maybe share this with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it too. That really helps support the channel. Thanks so much for watching you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.